Morning guys, Coach Heather here. We are talking more about sleep today. This month here at the gym, our focus is on getting 7 hours of sleep. And I've put that challenge out to members of the community to try and get those 7 hours of sleep every day. So last week we talked a little bit about why we need those 7 hours of sleep. But the focus was more on how we can get those 7 hours of sleep, creating some sleep routines, including some meditation, things like that. Today we're going to talk more about what happens during our sleep to our bodies and why we need to get those 7 hours. So, you hear a few comments like, the early bird gets the worm, or I'll sleep when I'm dead, things like that. And in this day and age, we seem to wear our lack of sleep as a badge to be proud of. We working overtime, lots of hours with different shifts, and we're just not getting the sleep that we should be and that we used to be as a society. And that is unfortunate because it's really not doing the body good. So that is what we're going to talk about today is how it is affecting the body itself. So we don't want to be skipping those hours of sleep. We want to be getting them. When we talk about sleep deprivation and our hormones, chronic sleep deprivation is going to cause a number of mechanisms in the body to get all wonky. So several hormones and metabolic processes in our bodies are affected with that lack of sleep. Studies have shown that just a week of sleep deprivation can cause significant alterations in your glucose tolerance. So that's just a week. So I know sometimes you're getting busy for a big event or a big festival, something, and you have maybe a week where we're not getting those hours of sleep. Within that week of sleep deprivation, we're going to have glucose tolerance affected. Now, what does that mean? So glucose tolerance is how readily our body's cells can recognize glucose floating around in our blood and pull it into the cells where we're going to use it for food. So basically what's happening when we're not getting that sleep is that our body isn't recognizing that free-flowing glucose and bringing it into the cells to use as energy. What happens then is that it's just going to get stored as fat if we're not using it. So impaired glucose tolerance can make you more likely to develop diabetes or cardiovascular disease as well. So one great reason why we need to be getting those hours of sleep in. So in fact, studies have shown that subjects who slept less than 5 to 6 hours per night were twice as likely to develop diabetes. That's a pretty serious number. And I know a lot of us, myself included, there have been nights when I've gotten that 5 hours of sleep or that 6 hours of sleep. So if we're not getting that 7 hours of sleep, it's just that extra hour. If we can get it, we're going to see a lot of things change. And one of them is that risk of diabetes. So again, those that got 5 to 6 hours of sleep per night or less were twice as likely to develop diabetes. Weight gain has also been a result of sleep deprivation. Studies have shown that the greatest risk for obesity is to be between 2 and 4 hours of sleep during the night. And I know that may be a little crazy for some of you to imagine, but there are those people out there that are getting 2 to 4 hours of sleep per night. So those people are more at risk of obesity. The lowest BMI was associated with subjects who got an average of 7.7 hours of sleep per night. So BMI, guys, stands for body mass index. So the lowest BMIs of those subjects in the study were pulled from the group that got about 7.7 hours of sleep per night. So again, we're looking at that 7-hour range for optimal results. So don't go and lock yourself up in a room and sleep a lot and think that you're going to come out 10 pounds lighter. That is not how it works. But these things are affected by that lack of sleep. So as I mentioned, impaired glucose tolerance is a side effect of sleep deprivation. When our body doesn't uptake glucose into the cell efficiently, we feel tired, we feel more hungry, and we feel hungrier more often than we should, which makes us reach out for food and we're eating more. That's going to result in that calorie surplus, meaning that we're consuming more calories than we're expending. So the more we eat, obviously, we're getting more calories in the body and we're going to get that surplus, more than maybe what we need. Also remember that our body is already not using energy, calories, or glucose well. We add more calories into there. What's going to happen to those excess calories? You got it. They're going to get stored away. Usually we see this fat stored in the bum, the thighs, and the belly. So if you're having issues storing fat in those areas, let's look and see how much sleep we're getting. In terms of hormones, we've got to talk about leptin and ghrelin. So it's not just glucose tolerance that works against us when we're sleep deprived. Sleep deprivation has been shown to lower leptin. Now, leptin is an appetite suppressing hormone produced by the fat cells, which is normally produced in abundance at night when we're sleeping. What happens when we're not sleeping is that we're not producing this leptin. We're having lower levels of leptin in our body, and it's an appetite suppressant telling us that we're full. So when we don't have that in our bodies, then we're not going to feel like we're satisfied when it comes to eating, and we're going to end up eating more. On the flip side of that, sleep deprivation is also going to increase the level of ghrelins in our body, and it is sort of a counterbalance there. The hormone ghrelin is released by the stomach, and it stimulates hunger, which is also secreted at night, but normally in lesser amounts. So not only do you have the hormone that tells you that you're feeling full going down, the one that's telling you that you're hungry is also going up. So you're getting a double whammy with those hormones when we're not getting those hours of sleep that we need. In terms of studies that have been done on that, research subjects were found to have an increased sense of hunger and tended to reach for carbohydrate-dense, sweet, and salty foods when they were sleep deprived. So we've got our glucose tolerance impaired, we're hungrier, and now we're reaching for the wrong kinds of foods. So it's just a poor combination. You probably also heard of cortisol. So cortisol, it's a buzzword that's been associated with stress and body fat, specifically belly fat. So cortisol does have a purpose and a place. It helps our bodies respond to stress appropriately, and it helps us so that we don't become ill. People who do not produce adequate levels of cortisol are diagnosed with Addison's disease, and they suffer from numerous problems. So you do need cortisol. It does have a place and a purpose. It's just the right amounts and at the right times that we need to be mindful of. Is bedtime a time when we want to have cortisol? No, because when it's high at bedtime, it's going to heighten our alertness. And that's the last thing we want when we're getting ready for bed, is to have a heightened sense of alertness. Chronic sleep deprivation seems to mess cortisol secretion up. So in studies on individuals who are sleep deprived, and when we're talking about deprived, we're talking about that 4 to 5 hour mark. So when our subjects were sleep deprived, those evening cortisol levels were elevated, and the levels decreased 6 times slower when compared to control subjects. So not only were the cortisol levels higher when you were sleep deprived, but the rate of them coming down was also far, far less than the control subjects that were getting enough sleep. So basically what's happening is that those cortisol levels are high in the body. We're alert, we're awake, we think to be doing something, when your body really should be sleeping, and those levels should be coming down so that you are more relaxed. Chronic sleep seems, so these elevations in cortisol further increase the likelihood of developing diabetes and obesity. So we see a pattern here. Sleep deprivation is not helping our bodies out whatsoever. We also need to think about sleep in the brain. So we talked a little bit about this last week as well. But studies have shown that chronic and acute sleep deprivation will negatively impact thinking and learning. So we think about alertness, attention, reaction time, memory, reasoning, and creative thinking. So when we don't get enough sleep, whether it's chronically or acutely, it is going to affect our brain function. One more I want to talk about is the immune system. So when sleep suffers, so does our immune system. There are specific types of immune cells in our body. They are cytotoxic natural killer cells and CTL. So they float around our body and they peak in number during the day. They fight off foreign antigens and repair damaged tissue during the day when tissue damage is most likely to occur. At night, during the early stages of sleep, and particularly during slow wave sleep, which is SWS for those with acronyms, but during slow wave sleep, different types of immune cells peak in concentration. So those T helper cells and antigen presenting cells, for those of you that are looking for those terms, prolactin and growth hormone, they're all going to peak. Cortisol, that's going to drop with our normal sleep patterns. So all of these changes make for an environment that support inflammation. So is that a good thing? In the right dose, when our body gets what it needs, yes. When we get adequate amounts of sleep, this inflammatory state is going to support the immune system by enhancing our ability to form an initial immune response. So when the bugs come in, we need that environment to be in that condition so that we can fight those germs. It also enhances long-term immune function. Basically, the body remembers the invaders over a long period of time. This inflammatory system, when you're getting enough sleep, is balanced by the anti-inflammatory hormone cortisol. So there is a balance, there is a rhyme or reason to these different levels of hormones in the body, but they do balance out when we do get those recommended hours of sleep. So whether you chronically skimp on sleep, whenever we chronically skimp on our sleep, those inflammatory conditions are unbalanced. So blood levels of C-reactive protein, that's an anti-inflammatory marker, they're going to go up when sleep period is too short for a prolonged time. So that inflammatory state resulting from a lack of sleep has been shown to do nothing to support our immune system. It's only going to impede our immune function, and it's going to put our bodies at risk of infection, chronic disease, and cancer. So long story short today, guys, we need those 7 hours of sleep, whether it's in terms of lessening our chance of type 2 diabetes, whether it's in terms of less body fat storage in different places, whether it's to control our cravings and our levels of hunger, or just inflammatory state as well. Lots of reasons to be getting that 7 hours of sleep. But I wanted to touch on that a little bit today. Not just how we can get more sleep, but why we actually need to have those 7 hours of sleep. We live in a very, very busy day and age. And oftentimes, we are proud that we're working as many hours that we do. We're as stressed as we are. But we don't need to be. We need to take the time and relax, and we need to have that rest and recovery period. We need those 7 hours, guys. So what is going on this week at the gym? We have our beach workout happening Saturday. So on the 15th of July, we're going to be down at Station Beach in Kincardine. It is a bring your family and friends day. So we're going to be down there. Our workout down at the beach starts at 9 o'clock. And then our very own Coach Tara, who has opened up Surf's Up downtown beside the old movie theater, she is going to be bringing down some of her stand-up paddleboards, and she's going to be running some demos for people to get out into the water and have a try. So make sure you are coming out to that. It's going to be fantastic. And I look forward to next week, guys. We're going to be talking a little bit about food sensitivities, specifically gluten, but food sensitivities in general, and just raising some awareness about that. So have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next Monday. Okay, take care, guys.